Hello and welcome to Supreme Court Now. My name is Luis Valledo, and today we're going to be looking at the current cases that are facing the Supreme Court of the United States. So the Supreme Court is having its first session since the coronavirus outbreak in the spring. So this October 5th, this Monday, we're going to see them tasked with two cases. These cases being Carney versus Adams, and the second one being Texas versus New Mexico. This video is going to look over background issues on the cases, each side, and what the Supreme Court is going to be tasked with, and the decision that they likely will make.
So, Carney versus Adams. Our two parties here are James Carney and James Adams. Two Jameses, right? James Carney is the governor of the state of Delaware, and James Adams is a former attorney in the state of Delaware who would like to run for judge. He wants to run for judge in the highest court in Delaware, which is the Delaware Supreme Court, and he's ran into a problem here. Problem is, in the Delaware Constitution, there are two provisions that disallow him from running. Right. The biggest one is the major party provision and the bare majority provision. And the bare majority provision, in a nutshell, means that one party cannot have more than the bare majority of judges on said court. So if the court has 9 judges, there can be a max of 5 Republicans, or there can be a max of 5 Democrats, right? And this is just to stop a monopoly. You know, I feel like maybe not a lot would get done if we had a court of 7 Democrats and 2 Republicans. They would get trumped out majority of the time, especially when the issues that arise are partisan issues, right? So this provision aims to keep a balance, right? Or at least more a balance than there would be without this provision, right? And the second provision we're going to look at is the major party provision, which basically states that opposing judges must be from opposing political parties. Now, this really only means that the judges can be either a Republican or the judges can either be a Democrat. There can be no libertarians, there can be no Green Party, there could be no independents. You could be a Democrat, you could be a Republican. Point blank, period. That's it. And this is a problem with Mr. James Adams because Mr. James Adams is not a registered voter for the Republican Party. He's not registered for the Democratic Party. And in his eyes, this hiring process for judges of the Delaware Supreme Court, it's unconstitutional, right? And the case that he brings up is a Supreme Court case from 1980. That's Branty versus Finkel, and this protects government workers under the First and 14th Amendment. It basically states that government workers are protected from dismissal based on their political beliefs. And it really means just that. Government service cannot be limited to someone just because they're a Democrat or just because they're a Republican. Now, what Governor Carney says to this is that there is a policymaker exception. So, for example, let's say that I am a Republican running for governor in the state of Texas, my home state. And I win the race, and now I have to hire my cabinet. The thing is, because I'm a policymaker, I do not want my chief of staff to be a Democrat. Why? Well, not because I'm a Republican and I hate all Democrats. Simply because my right-hand man or woman should not be someone who has really polar opposite ideal beliefs to me, political beliefs to me, really. Nothing will get done. There'll be many arguments. You need someone on your side who is just that. They're on your side. They want what you want. You guys are on the same mindset, the same frequency. And what Mr. James Carney states is that these Supreme Court of Delaware, these judges, they fall under this policymaker exception. Meaning that, some government employees may, and in fact, they must take into account political affiliation. And so with that, let's look at what happened in the first court case. So Governor Carney lost in the district court, and the district court basically said, this is unconstitutional. Mr. Adams should be allowed to run for judge no matter his beliefs, no matter his political beliefs. This, in reality, just goes down to it's his freedom to express. It's his freedom of expression, right? If he doesn't want to express that he's blue or he's red, That's fine. And so after his loss, Governor Carney filed an appeal for the Third Circuit, and when he got to that Third Circuit, the same thing happened more or less. He lost the case again. And so from there, he filed a writ of certiorari, which basically means the losing party of a case from a state's highest level, which in this case was the Third Circuit, can be appealed to the Supreme Court. And in order for it to get accepted by the Supreme Court, at least 4 justices, must agree, must say, hey, this is the case we want to take on. And that happened. So now we will see, October 5th, we will see this case, Carney versus Adams. With that, let's move on to the next case. Texas versus New Mexico. That's the case. So a little bit of background on this case. Texas and New Mexico, got a map actually right over here, share the Pecos River. And in 2014, there was a lot of flooding in the Pecos River specifically. And because of this, New Mexico opened their floodgates. And because they're upstream, everything that they let go came down into Texas's jurisdiction, even after Texas said, hey, look, we don't have the storage for it. We're telling you right now, don't do this. We simply can't. That's what they're saying. We simply can't. You can't do this. And with that, New Mexico opened their floodgates anyways, right? And so this is not why Texas is suing them. Texas is suing them because in 2018, the Rivermaster, the Rivermaster of New Mexico, in Texas's words, falsified information on behalf of New Mexico. And what the Rivermaster is, we have to look back a little bit further from that, in 1949. So in 1949, New Mexico and Texas entered a contract about river use of the Pecos. The Supreme Court of the United States appointed a Rivermaster to review annually New Mexico's compliance with this contract. And basically the contract just meant, hey, in order to track all of the rainfall, the water, how we are using hydroelectric dams, we need to keep track. And that's the Rivermaster's job in a sense. And so now let's come back to present day, more or less present day, 2018. So in 2018, New Mexico asked the Rivermaster to, quote, reduce its delivery obligations, end quote, due to the 2014 floodwaters. This just means New Mexico said to the Rivermaster, hey, you remember the flood we had in 2014, right? That extra amount of rain just messed up everything. So although we're supposed to deliver, maybe it was 16 million tons to the state of Texas, that was a little bit messed up. So we would ask you to cut our delivery obligations in half because technically we already did that, right? And Texas says this was unconstitutional. Texas said at the beginning, New Mexico doesn't have the right to do that. They can't falsify these claims. And so Texas feels that it was wrong and that Texas was charged for all the evaporated losses due to aired records. And Texas claims this was from a purposeful falsification of New Mexico's annual report in 2018. And so with this, the Supreme Court will look at this on Monday, and if they do rule in favor of Texas, Texas has also asked that they reevaluate 2019's evaluation as well, because, well, if 2018's was falsified, what makes us think that 2019's wasn't, if you will, a avalanche effect from that, right? If the numbers were off from that, how can we do our calculations based on wrong numbers, right? And so that's what the Supreme Court will look at this coming Monday.
So with that, thank you guys for watching. You have any questions, comments, concerns, confused? Go ahead and drop into the comments. I'll make sure to reply ASAP. Just any opinions about the case, thinking, hey, why is this even in the Supreme Court? Or just thinking, look, this is pretty one-sided. We think we know who's going to win. Go ahead and drop it in the comments, and I'll make sure to check those out. Without further ado, adios.